Welcome back, Sunday Ballers. This is your favorite podcast, airing on every Sunday on the week. This is your host, Dom, and this is your co-host, Jake. And today, we're going to be talking about a very special topic, a topic that excites us and gets us really ready for this NFL draft and the upcoming season. And that is comps for our total mock draft. So the mock draft that we did in the first episode, our top 32 prospects just about, that is what we're going to get into today. However, our host Jake has an interesting topic to talk about today, and I'm going to swing the mic to him.
Yeah, so I know this isn't 100% related to football in any way, shape, or form, but anyone who loves the SEC loves a good matchup. Auburn, Georgia, we're taking two of their heavyweights. We're going to take Langley and Maroney and just compare the two based on different categories, how we feel about them. I have my stance. Mr. Sunday Ball has his stance, so we're
Hop into it.
gonna hop into that, and I would love to see if you guys like the varying topics away
They're
from
going
the
to love
NFL.
it. They're going to eat it
But
up.
it still
They're going to eat it
relates.
up.
We're gonna eat it
I'll
up
even
today.
timestamp where the actual podcast starts, so if anyone actually doesn't want to listen to this, which sounds kind of mean and rude and maybe disrespectful, it'll be there just in case they want to skip ahead.
Yeah, if someone just wants to listen to us gab about football instead of talking about
Who
two
wants to
beautiful
do
women,
that? What a waste of time. I
it's
know.
kind of on you.
Alrighty.
All right. Yeah, so we'll start it off. I'm gonna start off with their most recent
Mm,
albums, see which one we have a
yes.
preference on. So my personal preference on that is I did like Ella Langley's new album a lot. I thought it was great. More of like a country rock vibe, and that's more of her vibe in general. The Meg Maroney album I did like a lot
Mm.
better. That's just more my vibe. I there's some songs on there that are just beautiful. And I think they both did a good job releasing their songs, but I think Meg Maroney saved some of her better stuff for the actual album, whereas Elle Langley just kind of dumped everything ahead of time. I felt like all her best songs were her first four that she dropped, aside from
Do you like
what is it?
Boots? Bottom of
Bottom of
Boots was fantastic, yes.
Yeah, that's probably my
Very
number
much is.
four on the
Have you
album.
heard her story of how that song was created?
Yeah,
Very
no, it's I
heartfelt,
heard
very
on the Theo
much.
Von
I
podcast.
love how much passion
People
she
are
has for
shipping
what she
that.
does. I absolutely love it.
People are shipping Theo Von and
Yeah,
Ella
well, the
Langley.
podcast was actually very entertaining because you can tell the whole
Yeah,
time he is trying to ignore the fact that he's in love with her, and he can't look her in the eyes for more than like 2 seconds. It was actually it's very entertaining. I love. I don't
yeah,
them
nor
because
can I.
no offense to Theo Von, but he has the IQ of probably a gray squirrel. I've met brown squirrels that have higher IQs than he does, so I'd say probably about a gray squirrel.
We've got we've got the black squirrels and emo. Those ones are
Yeah, that's true.
smart.
We're not talking about black squirrels today
Yeah,
because I'm not going to compare intelligence to a black squirrel. They obviously built
black
in-
squirrels are smart. Honestly, they might beat me on the
look
IQ chart.
to unlock that colorway. You got to be a high level. Everyone knows that. I mean,
Yeah,
come on.
yeah. To be secluded to the woods of East Mauritius, you have to be a smart
What a
squirrel.
colorway! And then you are in the best environment for a squirrel. Oh, you want to go eat acorns? They exist. You want to go eat out of trash cans? Oh, they're there. There's plenty of trash cans. You want to go eat out at the back of a deli? They're throwing out cold cuts every day. They're throwing out bagels on the hour, every hour. They're throwing out muffins all effing day. So if you're a squirrel, that is where you want to live. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I was down south, people were watching me sit behind the Krispy Kreme waiting for them to chuck a few glazed ones out.
Amen.
Yeah, and I'm not a
Amen.
squirrel, and I was still enjoying it.
We love our Krispy Kreme here. That is a good place, and
Oh, yeah.
they may have the
Oh,
best
God.
glazed donut of all time. I would I
It's up there. Yeah,
glazed
I mean,
donut.
definitely for the chain, definitely
Mhm.
for the chain donut places, like compared to
Yeah,
like Timmy Ho's and
Timmy's got
Dunkin',
Timmy's got a sleeper,
definitely
and so does Dunkin'.
put
But Timmy does a better Crueller, And Dunkin' does a better twist. Dunkin' has fire twists, but they don't have their well, no, low key, their glazed donut's pretty solid. It's a staple, but it's not on tier with what Crispy is delivering.
You ever dip your apple fritter in a black dark roast from Timmy Ho's?
Now I feel like
Oh
I'm
my
missing
God.
out. Now, because I don't get hot coffee from Tim's. I lived in Buffalo for a while. It's an extension of Canada, and I am a Timmy's truther. They have an excellent. I mean, honestly, if you want to go and just get a plain iced coffee, they're so good. They have good flavors. They have excellent
Oh yeah.
frappes, good iced cappuccinos. And if you're very much a person that's, distinguishes or has a problem with the macros, their iced cap has next to no sugar, has next to no calories, essentially just a frosted coffee. And that's slept on because when you order a frosted coffee from most places, we're talking 40, 50 grams of sugar with about 60% of your daily allowance of fat. They don't even mess with that. It's so beautiful. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. If
So
you don't,
pure.
oh,
It's
it's
so pure.
hash. It is green bean. Green bean. All right. Call for my
Um,
rebuttal on your. Sorry, this is just distracted, but it's wonderful. And so I'm more of an Ella Langley truther, and it doesn't mean I'm disrespect Megan Maroney. I really like Megan Maroney. I think her peak songs are peak. But I love the heart that Ella puts into it. I thought her album was excellent. If you hear, and this is a comparison I like to give to really any other country artist because it is tough out there. If you're in a store or you're at a food establishment and you're listening to the radio, a lot of the time it's very trash, very hit or miss. Oh my God, I can't stand this. But I'm in Tennessee the other day and I'm in a thrift store and on the radio comes Dandelion and my mood rose about 15 points and my cortisol basement levels of cortisol. That's how like great we're talking. That Dandelion is such a banger and it's probably her most radio song on the whole thing, but it's
no,
so
she's in
good.
Texas.
And like I wouldn't
She's in
uh,
Texas. She's in
okay,
Texas
Choosing Texas
for a
blew
number
up,
of
but is
yeah.
Choosing Texas a strict radio song when you
That's
hear
more
it?
of a
Maybe
radio
not. Look,
song.
yes, it is now a radio song because of how popular it got, but I wouldn't equate Choosing Texas to a radio song like something from Luke Bryan or something from Morgan Wallen. And Morgan Wallen has good music, but he also loves his radio hits. He really does. And Broadway Girls, that is a radio song. And I love Lil Durk, don't get me wrong, but that is a radio. Leaving Broadway
Take
Girls alone.
down Audi. That's all we sang in Nashville. All right. Yeah. So yeah, just kind of talking about their most recent albums. We could go into, like our personal
Mhm.
preference on attractiveness. I don't know if that's a topic we should really be talking
We
about,
don't
but
objectify women,
something.
but we can we can relinquish in their beauty. We can appreciate their beauty because I hope that we can appreciate the beauty because they appreciate our beauty, and that means a lot to me. And I think at the end of the day, we're very equal people. We're all on an equal plane, and I think if we appreciated the beauty of others more, subjective or not, we'd be a much better place. We'd be much better people in a much better place. And I can sit here and say calmly and comfortably that both Ella Langley and Megan Maroney are very beautiful people.
I agree. I 100% agree on that. And it's really dealer's choice.
It
Like
is.
we all have preferences. We all have preferences, like, and you're allowed to make your own opinion about things. I'm a Megan Maroney fan. That's for me. She's a goddess
She's
to
a
me.
wonderful
But
girl with the voice of an
uh,
angel. I mean, I'll tell you that.
yeah, no, she
Like
does.
a morning
Yeah.
canary. Oh my
No,
God. It's wonderful. Beautiful.
yeah,
But
yeah. All right. Do you want to switch up the segment
I
before we
think
get
that's a good idea. So now I'm going to switch to a
yeah.
segment that I've been thinking about, and I hope all of our viewers have been thinking about. If you have been missing out on this, I feel bad. I feel sorry for you. And that is the previous and the upcoming Invinciboys Wednesday. So this podcast will air before the third episode of The Boys and the seventh episode of Invincible. So we are going to talk about it a little bit today. We just watched episode 6 of Invincible. Those who not know, we're not going to get crazy into spoilers because we don't want to be bad people here. But shit,
But watch the
shit has
show.
went
Watch
down.
the show.
Shit has went down. We know that shit went down.
Yeah,
And same thing with the boys to an extent, but shit is going to go down. Very exciting. So what do we think? Are you
yeah.
excited?
No, I'm very excited. I'm very excited about all of it. I definitely have been preferring Invincible over The Boys just because The Boys hasn't really hit that climax yet. But that opening episode and like the whole A Train sequence in the first episode, phenomenal. Like I think they did an excellent job with that. They definitely put most of their budget
You
into
can't
that.
stop the A train, man. You can't, and the fact that what the character development it gave when in season one he
They
had
did
no
great.
remorse over killing Huey's girlfriend, to now getting to Hero Gasm in season three, episode eight, where he then apologizes to Huey, but you can tell he kind of means he kind of doesn't. He avoided that girl. He could have killed her, and that's what killed him, and that meant so much to me. So rest in peace, A Train. First of all. Second of all,
Yeah,
I'm very excited for both series. I love the way that Kamiko's character has went. I think that's like a small underlying, I guess, more like a F plot. We'll go with that because it's very much like not involved with like the regular story. But I find it sweet, and I can't wait for the Deep to die within these next two episodes. It's gonna be very awesome.
I want the
The
Deep to
peak
stay
is
alive.
dying. The
I
peak is
love.
dead. Like he is pronounced dead. The peak is over. Unless he goes and like explores to the ocean and never comes back, the peak is done. I feel like the peak is
I
done.
love
I
the
love the
Deep,
peak. Oh, I love.
but also from what happened to A Train, I think he did that on purpose. Baited Homelander into snapping his neck because he does have, if anything, he has increased recovery. Like his recoverability from injuries would like
Do I hear what you're saying
eventually
here?
could
Do I hear
possibly
what you're
catch up.
saying?
I think he might be coming
Ooh,
back, especially with Marie Monroe
love
around.
that.
Like since Homelander didn't burn him and there was nothing left of him that they could actually recover, Marie Monroe might have the possibility of
I love that.
bringing
I
him back to
love that.
life
I love
along with
that.
his
I was not even thinking.
recovery,
I love
along with
that.
his
Oh my God. We love that. We love getting easier
speed.
because
Yeah,
she hasn't been involved in neither of any of the other characters. I think Sam would play an excellent role if he was with the Starlighters. I mean, he is strong as frick. He is strong as frick. It would be really cool. That gets me very excited. I would not have thought about that before. I love
yeah,
that.
that was something I thought of. I'm a huge Flash fan, so I was thinking that he and like also he's mentioned in the past like he broke his leg and he was recovered in a couple weeks. Most people
Well,
like if they broke their femur like that, they would not be doing anything.
fair.
Yeah, so I think Marie mixed with his speedy recovery ability could possibly get him back by the end of the season, and I would love to see it. Really just encapsulating on that redemption arc, even though it was a great redemption arc. Like I am fine if they leave him
This is
dead.
what it
I'm
is. It is
absolutely
what it
fine with
is. He
that.
protected his family. He knows they're safe now. I think that was kind of his motivation. But I think that would be very
Yeah,
interesting. And because he didn't die because he was slow, he died because he was trying to save someone, and that meant a lot to me at the moment. But I do think that it would be very interesting if you brought back to talk about Invincible a little bit before we switch to our main topic of the day. Thrag is someone that I've heard he's going to be aura farming all this next episode, which is very interesting because he's so attached to that skull and he lost all his aura. He did nothing. He talked a big game. The comics, this, that, whatever, and all the fans talked about how he was not threatening enough, how this voice was not his voice, which is interesting, and I'm not going to really get into that because I don't do casting. But I've heard he's going to be aura farming this whole episode. That's interesting to me because why do you have to aura farm if you are the strongest Viltrumite? If you are the Emperor, it's interesting to me because I find that if he's going to be aura farming this whole episode, and I'm not sure if that's true, I haven't seen it yet. You guys maybe will have, but I haven't seen it. And if he's going to be aura farming this episode, it might actually bring him negative aura. Funnily enough, an interesting thing I've been thinking about. That is he going to lower his aura from how low it was? I mean, it was at a basement level when the ship got ran through. I mean, when Oliver and Invincible did their thing. I'm excited for next episode. That's what I'll say.
I think they're gonna dive into like his backstory a lot in the next episode. That's kind of my prediction on what's gonna happen. Just dive into his backstory a lot more, and then save a lot of the fighting for the last episode. And I have flipped through the comics. I've seen a lot of spoilers that I wish I didn't see, but I am very excited to see what they do with Thrag. I know he's going to be a recurring villain for seasons to come, at least one more season. Uh,
Should get at
and
least two more seasons. I've heard eight, which eight would be a good amount, I feel, because the comics go for so long and it's stayed relatively aligned with the comics. Yeah, there's some deviations, but it's mostly consistent with the comics. So I'd like to see where they actually go with the series, whether it's, after season six to go completely off the wall or to have Oliver date a lobster. Maybe that's where they'll go with it. Who knows, you know? You've seen the memes. You have to have seen the memes. Come on.
no, 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 I have.
Like, I'm not too really dark. Come on.
I sent you probably five, right,
Oh,
by
would they
now.
come back and forth, ladies and gentlemen?
Back and forth, yes.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's kind of all we wanted to talk about without spoiling too much. We did spoil a little bit for anyone who hasn't seen it
Not
yet,
bad.
but it's been out for a week. You've had
Okay.
time.
So, are we
Yeah.
trying to hop into our actual main event of this episode? We trying to hop on?
Yeah, yeah, I'd love to.
Okay.
Yeah, no, and then I think, yeah,
It's
let's just hop into it,
gonna be
see
a
where it
long
takes
segment.
us.
It's gonna be a great segment. We're both very excited for this. We've been prepping for weeks. Just kidding, about days or maybe hours. But we have locked in. We have accumulated our NFL comps, our ceiling, our floor, and our realities for all 32 of our top prospects on the big board. So this should be very interesting.
Yeah, how do you want to structure that? Do you want to go ceiling, floor, or do you want to go floor, realistic,
Ceiling
ceiling, like
realistic. I'm
floor,
thinking
middle?
ceiling floor realistic, though. If there's a better, if you feel that for your player it feels better to deviate from that, that's cool by me, obviously. But I'll probably stick to that. I also have a few basements, which, everyone knows the floor level, but there is a basement. Some of these players, if they bust, they're going to go to the basement. They're going to fall through all three floors, and it might hurt. It might hurt very bad for a team, especially if they're in the top 10. And that's where I have most of my basements anyway. So, Jake, I would love
Yeah,
you.
I don't,
What do we think? What do we got?
I don't have any basements, but I will throw them out there if I
Hmm.
see it. Um,
Um,
Actually, I can do it for the
if
first
there's
guy
anything you see,
that we're
feel
going to take
free.
on.
All I'll say is we did a mock. If you haven't seen it, please check out our first episode from 2 weeks ago about our 2026 mock 1.0 Sunday Ball. We're going to go along that list. That was our just about 32 top guys. But we're going to switch it up a little bit today. So Jake is going to take odds, and I'm going to take evens. So Jake, would you please take it away?
Yeah, I'd love to start. So our first pick in our mock draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Fernando Mendoza. That's who we had there. So if we're gonna start, I'm gonna start at the floor. I really think his floor is Kirk Cousins. That's where I have his floor at. His basement is going to be like Jimmy Garoppolo is where I have his basement, like Mac Jones maybe somewhere in that realm where if he does fit into the right system, he still can produce, but he's could be passed around backup quarterback for the
I
rest of
like
his
the Garoppolo.
career. Yeah, I think Garoppolo is probably like more of a floor than Kirk Cousins. So my realistic for him is going to be Matty Ice, Matt
Ooh,
Ryan.
realistic.
That's where I have his realistic. I'm pretty high on Mendoza. I do like him a lot. Um, So Matt Ryan, he had that one MVP season and was very consistent throughout his career in a very high volume offense, highly productive offense throughout his career, and I think Mendoza can do that with the right weapons. If he doesn't have those weapons, I think he is going to struggle a bit. Like Matty Ice going to the Colts and them really not having much. Like he was towards the tail end of his career, but there was not really much production there. And then I have his ceiling. I have it as one of Joe Burrow's like medium years. where he's fully healthy. I do think their mobility is similar. I did watch some Joe Burrow tape recently, and it did give me a little reminder of Mendoza. Not a huge arm quarterback, but highly accurate, highly efficient with the ball. And my biggest problem with Joe Burrow is the his inability to get the ball out of his hands, where he's taking unnecessary hits because he's trying to make a perfect play, similar to Andrew Luck. But yeah, I think he's going to be operating from the pocket as much as possible, and we might see a similar situation with the offensive line being poor in LV. So I really do think his ceiling is going to be Joe Burrow, where he's nearing that All Pro range.
I mean, I really do like the comps. I think they all fit. I don't know if I'd see him as such. I don't think he's a pure arm talent. I don't mean just, bark on the ball, but
Yeah,
getting the ball to where it goes to. Joe Burrow reminded me of Drew Brees coming out. I love Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow might be my favorite prospect in the last 10 years.
yeah,
But I do see it. I
mm.
see the absolute ceiling of
Yeah. No,
Joe
this
Burrow
is like a
guy.
very. I was pretty generous with my ceilings on a lot of these guys, just because they
Well,
are ceilings. I don't
it,
want to cap them
you
at
you will
any.
read mine and trust me, some of my ceilings, they are ceilings. They are ceilings. Even some of my realities are a little ceiling like, but they at least fit. But I do like it. I like it a lot.
Okay, I'll pass the Jets
Okay,
pick to
so
you.
number two, we have the Jets taking Marvell Reese out of Ohio State. And I'll hop right into my comps. And for my ceiling, I have DeMarcus Ware. For those who are not familiar, you don't see it? You don't see it a little bit?
I do. I had a different ceiling for him
Fair.
though.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second. But my floor is Caleb Chase on very similar measurables, but he's lacked a lot of the production, and I think that is about the floor as I see. I don't see Alvel Reese as someone who peters their way out of the league like I don't know, let's use Taco Charlton for an example. I know he's in the UFL, but still. I don't see him as a guy that's going to peter out. I see him at his absolute floor as still a guy that can be used in a rotation on the D line. I don't think he'll be some guy that's out of the league in 5 years at his absolute floor. But my reality and what I really do think he will resonate at about, the prospect grades are very similar, their measurables are pretty similar, is Cam Wake. For those who remember Cam Wake, he was an absolute dog on the Miami Dolphins in the early 2000s, and a lot of their tape lines up very well. They have very similar hand movements. They have the about same bendability on the edge. Cam Wake was a demon in his time on bendability around the edge. I mean, he could attack quarterbacks. But I do see Alvaro Reese developing into that, and especially if he gains a little bit more size. I know he's 6'4" and about 240. That feels a little light for playing weight. I think he'll get to about 265, 270. And if he could get to 265, he would scream Cam Wake at me. I really love Cam Wake. That is my reality, and that's where I see him. I see him at about a Pro Bowl to bordering All Pro guy. I don't think he'll ever hop into that top four conversation. It's a very tough conversation to hop into, but I do think he could be a guy that teeters around there, and I'm very excited for him as a prospect. And while I'm not sure if this is where I'd go with the Jets pick, if this is the pick, I'd be happy with it if I was Aaron Glenn and the rest of the New York Jets.
Yeah, so I kind of view him more as like a hybrid off the ball linebacker, like both edge and off the ball. So I was thinking like his ceiling could be like a
Mm-hmm.
Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I had his ceiling
I
out in
like
my
Alden
head.
Smith a lot. Alden Smith was teetering around, but I wasn't sure because Alden Smith felt like a middle ground between Demarcus Wake and
Yeah.
Cam Wake. Demarcus Ware and Cam Wake. There.
One letter away.
You're not
One
that
letter
far
away. It's
off.
okay. Yeah, no, no, you're fine. Okay, I'll hop into the Cardinals pick of David Bailey. I love this kid. He was a standout on the Texas Tech
For sure.
defense. So for my ceiling for him, I have Von
Oh, I like
Miller.
that. Fun, fun.
Bendability, the size that he's coming out with, and just how he is just a pure edge. Like he is not a guy you want on first and second down clogging the run. He is a guy you want screaming on third down, giving the quarterback hell, making his reps count. Yeah, so he reminds me a lot of like Von Miller, just being able to bend like that, and like some of the moves that he just pulls off are just ridiculous. So for my floor, I have Harold Landry. Similar, like that edge, that pure edge that you want, just rushing the pass rusher, but obviously not at the same efficiency as Von Miller was doing. Um, and yeah, and then for my realistic, I have Josh Hines Allen. That's where I have him realistically. Josh Hines Allen was a freak coming out of Kentucky. I really liked him coming out. He is a bit of a better run stuffer than the other two guys I mentioned, but he's not. That's not his pure position. I do think he's going to translate to the NFL like that, where he's going to be a pretty consistent 10 plus sack guy for whatever team decides to take him, which could be the Cardinals. There could be another team that trades in.
Cardinals are a
Um,
big trade-in spot. I could definitely see them. I've seen Milwaga
I,
is the
I
highest odds to go at 3, which I don't see happening. Not at all.
I really thought it was going to happen, or in
Hmm.
our mock, I really thought you were
Yeah.
going to take him there. I like Malaga a lot, and they need offensive line help, but David Bailey is a freak, and I don't
Yeah.
blame them. I do see the Cowboys trading in to get this guy.
Oh, funky. I like that.
I
It
see
doesn't seem
the.
like the price would be too much at 3. I mean, what are we talking? If you trade 12
I don't
pick
think so.
plus, I guess a first from next year, it's probably where it is, right? Unless you do your second and third this year, then maybe. But
Yeah, I can see him doing that, like creeping in for. I honestly, a second and a fourth might work.
9 picks?
Might
Yeah.
work. They are trading. They are trading with the Cardinals, so
There's no
it's, you know.
quarterback available, so I could see that. It's going to be very much reduced this year, like, compared to
Yeah.
other years. Trading up to the 3 spot would be insane, but when who's your 3 contenders to trade up? I mean, we're talking you're going to pick Julian Love. You're not trading up for a lineman at 3. There's no way. Maybe you're trading up for Caleb Downs or Sonny Styles, but I don't see that. That feels too early. Which I might think Caleb Downs is
I
one of the best prospects, and he is my number one on my big board, but I wouldn't trade up for him at 3. That feels ridiculous.
No, not at three. I'm
Yeah.
just saying like David Bailey, not
Yeah.
at three. I'm saying well that is what I'm saying. I could see the Cowboys sliding in
Oh,
there, getting
if
David
you're
Bailey
pass rush
there.
needed, this is the
If
spot.
the
Yeah.
if the Jets decide to take Arvell Reese, I think the price tag's a bit high
Yeah.
for that. For them to trade out, for the Cowboys to trade in and get David Bailey. But I think if he falls to three, I think there's a good chance the Cowboys could go there because they need edge help. Could also see the Bills going there too because they
Love
need
that.
edge help. They could get a legit dude on the edge opposite of Bradley Chubb, and you got Ed Oliver on the inside that
Yeah.
transforms
He
that
would be a
defense.
difference maker on that Buffalo D line. That would be fantastic. By year 1, he might have 10 sacks. That would be very fun. And he had production in college. What do you 14 and a half? At Texas Tech, which is a good school. I mean, you're playing Big 12 ball. Those are all good schools. I mean, we
Yeah.
know Big 12. They
All right.
had how many top 25 teams they have this year? Utah, BYU, them, and other guys just surfing right back and forth. Respect them.
Mhm.
Should I,
Yeah,
should
I think there was
I
a
go
few
for
teams that were creeping in and creeping. Yeah, go to number four.
it? All right. So our number 4,
Who are you?
we have the Tennessee Titans selecting Jeremiah Love. So this was one of my favorite comps to compile because he has streaks of so many different players. But I'm going to give you my ceiling right now because this is one that is very exciting. And while it's a very high ceiling, I find that he fits this guy very well because he has not just the pop ability to get up and go and beat 11 guys and get to the end zone on a 90-yard run, but he has the physicality to run through your face. And that is Adrian Peterson. He reminds me of AP so much. I love it. Watch his tape.
Yes.
It reminds me of AP, and that's saying a lot. I mean, AP is a bona fide top 5 guy of all time, top 6, depending on if you like LaDainian Tomlinson over him. But love it.
I do.
I can't stop thinking about Adrian Peterson when I pull up the tape. But to get
Okay.
into my, we'll go first to my. We'll just go down the list on this one because it's a fun one. I got 4 for this one. Hint, hint. I got a basement for this one. The basement's even more fun. So for my realistic, I got Matt Forte. What I think is
Yeah, that's exactly what I
yes, because
had
he
for him.
has the ability out of the backfield. He has the ability between tackles, and he also has the pop ability, which I think matters. And all of my guys here have pop ability because his high end speed is so high and his acceleration is fantastic. But it's his contact balance that really resonates with me for the Matt Forte pick. That I mean, it's been a while since
Yeah,
we've seen Matt
I,
Forte play. I will say that, but
he was interchangeable with Arian Foster
I
for
love
me.
that. I love the Arian Foster pick. I'd say Matt Forte just because of his welcoming contact, maybe a pinch more, but that's very close.
Yeah.
But my floor would be Chuba Hubbard, and more of a today's guy. I find that they have very similar size, very similar physicality. Jeremiah Love definitely has more of a top speed than him, but I think if all else fails, he gets drafted to an offense like the Titans. They don't go anywhere. He could. I love Chuba Hubbard. I love Chuba Hubbard coming out. They paid him for a reason. Chuba Hubbard is legit. And for that to be at my floor on this guy says a lot about who he is, which I'm not sure if he'll ever touch what Chuba Hubbard is. But Chuba Hubbard is a made man. Chuba Hubbard is on a second contract. Chuba Hubbard's rushed for 1,000 yards before, and Chuba Hubbard is taking control of that Panthers backfield again. Chuba Hubbard's a very talented guy. I love his catchability out of the backfield. I love his pass blocking even. I love Chuba Hubbard's pass blocking. And Jeremiah Lover's not a guy that's afraid to pass block. A lot of running backs won't get involved, but I love how much he loves contact. It gets me going. It gets this heart pumping. And my basement on this guy is Bio Powell. Wow. New York Jet from the early 2010s. I think they have very similar acceleration, very similar pop. They just look like each other when they play on the field. I mean, pull up Bio Powell tape. It's been a while, but pull it up. And you might see streaks of Jeremiah Love. I hope he doesn't play at Bio Powell level for his career. That would make me maybe a little upset because of how high of a grade I have on this back. But you know what? If he does have games like Bio Powell is a serious contender. Like he contended for snaps. He got snap share. He was a dog, and Bio Powell wasn't afraid of contact. He was a guy that could take it, out to the outside, pop out right outside the hashes, and just turn up. He was great out of the backfield on screens. You don't remember that because no one watched those Jets games. But Bio Powell could take a screen to the house. And I think Jeremiah Love's that same type of guy. I love him catching screens next year, especially if it's in the Tennessee backfield. And, you have Wandale. I'm going to assume they're going to draft a wide receiver. I hope so. If not, I guess you'd sign Debo maybe. I find Debo might fit.
Juwan
Juwan
Jennings.
Jennings, Debo. But for a guy that can, I mean, he would open up that offense so much and would make Cam Ward's life a lot easier, make the wide receiver's life a lot easier. I really love his outlook if he goes to Tennessee, and I love his outlook if he goes to New Orleans. I love his outlook. Is there anyone else I'd want in the top 10? I guess the Commanders, but I don't think he's the hole to fit there. But we're not doing a mock today. We're doing comps, and those are my comps.
Yeah, but if he's sitting at 7 or 8, I could see the Jets trading in that 16th pick and Brees Hall
I love that.
for
Brees
yeah
Hall be
for
free.
to get
Free
to get
Brees Hall, everybody. He's not a great runner. He's like
free
top
Brees.
15, but free him because he's stuck in New Jersey. Just free him. Free him.
Okay, so I'm gonna move on to the Giants pick of
Please
Caleb
do.
Downs. I I do think very highly of him. Those few years that Minka Fitzpatrick was in his prime, that's gonna be my ceiling for him. Yeah, Minka Fitzpatrick was a difference maker on that defensive side of the ball in that secondary, and he was a leader on that defense. I think he has a lot of those same intangibles. For my floor, I have Antoine Winfield Jr. So still a very respectable high safety, playing more in the skies, but can creep up in the box and be more of a hybrid guy as well. But my realistic is going to be Buda Baker, his prime run. Yeah, I love Buda Baker. I think very highly of him when he was in his prime. And I have a lot of respect for him sticking on the Cardinals for so long. I was thinking maybe
I
Honey
was gonna
Badger
say Tyrann
somewhere.
Mathieu. I love either him or Eric Berry. I love the both of those guys. I mean, Eric Berry's more of a coverage guy, but
Yeah,
Caleb Downs has excellent coverage skills.
yeah, excellent coverage guy. But I'm more focusing
Yeah,
on just like
Brian
middle,
Branch is
like more of
interesting,
that hybrid.
but I
I think
love that
Brian,
comp. I not Brian.
yeah, I think Honey Badger, Buda Baker,
Buddha's
somewhere in
fun.
that range, where a guy that could just, yeah. And if you want to watch some fun tape, watch some Honey Badger tape. Oh my
Amen.
God. Watch his college LSU tape.
Yeah.
It
You
is
want to go for a
poetic.
run? You put that on. It'll get you moving. You'll run out.
And then I'd say if I had to go for a basement for him, still like a legit guy, but maybe go like a Kevin Byard, maybe like Kevin Byard now,
Yeah,
not
lost Kevin.
maybe more like yeah, more like Kevin
Yeah.
Byard now, where he's just not really. producing at such a high
I think
level,
that's
but
fair.
I think that might be Caleb Downs in
I,
10
I just I
years.
don't see him busting. Even if he hits his floor, I don't see him busting. He feels like a guy that's still going to be
Yeah.
a stalwart. I mean, but yeah, I love those comps. Should we get to number six? All right, so
Yeah.
number six, we have the Cleveland Browns taking Francis Muaga. And to start this off, a guy that honestly is a very similar sounding name than him, but besides the name, they have very similar skills. Their pass protection skills are very similar. They have similar feet movement. I mean, they have great footwork, and that's Jordan Mailata. I think they even size. I mean, they're very similar. Yeah, Mailata's a little bigger. Mailata is 6'8", I believe, and Muaga is 6'6". Those are big dudes. They're humongous. They have the same about weight. You look at them, they're about the same. I'll give Mailata his flowers, but I do think that with the proper development,
Is that is that
my
your
ceiling
ceiling?
is Ron Mailata. Mailata is an All-Pro guy. That is my
No, yeah, I
yeah,
was just
that's my
wondering.
ceiling. My floor on this guy. I hate to say it, and it feels a little mean, but it's Eric Flowers. I He's a Miami guy. I have ever since then I've been a little scarred about the Miami tackles. There hasn't been a humongous guy to come out and really change that narrative.
Laramie Tunsil.
I'm not giving Laramie Tunzel the benefit of the doubt, but I mean, we all love that video. We all love it. I love him.
Yeah, speaking of which, did you hear about the Ruben Main
No,
stuff?
what? How he has little baby arms and he can't doesn't have any speed moves. All he can do is pass. All he can do is bull rush.
No, he
Not that I
no,
said that,
like a
but
couple.
I've heard that only he can do is bull rush, and you should watch his pro day tape, and he has no bend ability.
No,
Zero. You might as well play him at
he's trying.
linebacker. He reminds me of Navarro Bowman. Put him at middle because he does not like. I digress. My core goes back.
So apparently he got into a car accident. It might have been a DUI. Don't quote me on that. In 2014, and whoever was in his passenger seat was ended up in a coma, and then 3 months later died.
2014.
2024.
I'm
Sorry,
sorry. Oh, yeah. 9 years
I'm still
old.
thinking about the 2014 draft. Yeah, but yeah. So that might bump his draft
Yeah.
stock down, but for the sake of the video, that's just what I heard. It could be April Fool's prank. I've fallen for plenty of those, but
Hashtag
yeah,
Darth Vader bomb. Hashtag.
love that. Yeah, I could see.
I love that video. I loved it when I was 11 years old, and I love it now. I love that video.
I thought it
The
was so
funniest thing
funny.
ever because
It
I
was
had no
so.
clue what it was. I was like, "What is he doing?" This because the Dolphins put that out to land him. They 100% leaked that. He fell all the way to 14. He was like a top three guy. Like that was ridiculous. And he had the production. He's still getting paid like that. I mean, he's a beast on the Texans right now. Is he still Texans? I believe. Unless
No, he's on the Commanders.
Commanders. God, he's in hell. But I'm sorry.
Computer computer check.
I believe you're right. Now that I think about it.
Okay, so you want to finish? No, he's still on the Texans apparently.
I don't
No, he's on the Commanders.
No,
Never mind, I was wrong.
I took the L. But my middle ground and more of a lower middle ground, but still middle ground is DJ Fluker. He reminds me a lot of if a lot of things don't pan out. What I mean is if he doesn't establish better lateral movement, if his kick step doesn't get perfected, and he doesn't become a beast in the run game, which he could be. He has the strength and he has the intangibles to develop into a mean run blocker like Jordan Mailata. But if he doesn't and he becomes just an average tackle that, a guy that you can have out there. DJ Fluker was a good player in the NFL for 10 years. I I hope he doesn't turn into DJ Fluker, but that is my realistic guy that I see when I watch him on film. That if X and Y and Z don't pan out, and we already referenced what those things mean, I think his base is DJ Fluker, which is a solid guy on a team to start for a team for 7 years, 8 years, maybe go to a different team, start for another two, and fizzle out. And I wouldn't be disappointed. I mean, we've seen guys go early, like Cam Robinson, who haven't done anything, and they've still stuck around the NFL. I mean, I think Cam Robinson still plays. And he was a bust every sense of the word. He was number two pick behind Jake Matthews. And he was a bust. But he's still playing. So I got to respect it. And I don't think he's going to be DJ Fluker because it's a low reality, I think he'll be slightly better. If you actually ask me where I think he's going to sit at, I think next year he'll be somewhere along the 20s, early 20s in PFF, but he'll sit, once he reaches his prime, he'll sit around the high, like, I mean, like probably 11 to 14, the low 10s. And that feels about right. I don't think he has the intangibles. And if everything works out, yeah, maybe he could be a Milata guy. But in all reality, he might just be a solid tackle for a team for 10 years. And that's all you can really ask. I mean, Jake Matthews picked number one, and you don't see the Falcons regretting it because they got 10 years out of a solid tackle. And we'll talk, he's one of my comps for one of my other guys. But I if you get Jake Matthews, and yeah, it was early, but if you get Jake Matthews or a guy similar to that, you can't really complain. Because it's so hard to find a productive tackle in this league. I mean, teams that have been cycling through the last 10 years. I,
Yeah, no, I think he's pretty raw compared to like a lot of the other guys that we've listed so far. And that kind of gives him like a very like low
that's,
Eric Flowers
he's raw.
floor.
If he does the Milata pan out, it'll mean that he doesn't matter if he was raw, but it's asking a lot. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's a high ask.
Okay, I'll move into the Commanders' pick of Sonny Styles. So my ceiling for him is Bobby Wagner or Fred
I
Warner.
like that.
Yeah, just more Fred Warner, just more
Yeah, I
like
see
that
that wrong.
lengthier, like current middle backer look, where Bobby Wagner was more of a thumper on the inside with his size, and he was allowed to be
Mm-hmm.
just because of how well that secondary played. He didn't really have to do a ton of
Yeah.
pass coverage in Seattle. Yeah, no, if he really develops and becomes one of those guys that is one of those guys, I think his ceiling is a Fred Warner all pro type of player. And then for my floor, I guarantee everyone else has this as their floor. Isaiah Simmons.
On floor. Because
That's where I
he
have
was
his
a good
floor.
player
But the
for a
thing is with
while.
I,
He was a good player. Um, yeah.
he was decent, but he was a what top? I think he was top eight
And Cardinals
pick.
wasted him though.
Like,
My comp to him, my low comp is Mark Barron. Do you remember Mark Barron coming out? He reminds me
yeah,
of him. Pull up Mark Barron tape. Computer, pull up the Mark Barron tape. And they do seem very similar. He's a very similar player to Isaiah Simmons, obviously. But let's keep going.
yeah, yeah. And then my middle ground is going to be Devin Lloyd, more
Okay.
just like that current traditional
Yeah.
backer who's very good off the
Hmm.
ball. He made some decent money this year, Devin Lloyd,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's where I do think pretty highly of him. I like him a lot, but middle backers aren't middle and just off the ball linebackers are just not a huge priority by a lot of teams. Um, and like that Devin Lloyd, I'm talking more about the intangibles, not about like the
Yeah.
leadership skill. If he does develop that leadership, captain of the
Hmm.
defense, quarterback
Yeah.
defense, whatever you want to call it, then I have him more like on the Fred Warner side, like in between the Devin Lloyd and Fred
I
Warner
like that.
area.
There's a guy he reminds me of. That's Jamal Adams, actually. He played safety early in his
I
career at Ohio State. I could see it.
Yeah, I had a few safeties in here. I had actually my ceiling for him was gonna be Kyle
I like that.
Hamilton. But I was sticking to just
Yeah,
because
that's fair.
athletic
It's a
freak.
very
Like,
separate comp almost. Like you feel weird making it, but I could.
yeah, no, I felt odd saying
Yeah.
it. Like as it was like about to come out of my mouth, I'm like Fred Warner. I like a
I
little
really
bit
think
better.
where he ends up, like where his actual reality is, matters a lot on his situation and his coaching because he has the ability to, like you said, pan out to be a Fred Warner. And it's actually like it almost feels disrespectful, and I don't mean this in disrespect to Fred Warner, please, but it almost feels disrespectful to comp him to Fred Warner because of how amazing and once in a generation his athletic abilities can be. Technically speaking, his ceiling could be I don't even know where to put it, like a weird like a weird intersex baby between Micah Parsons and Reuben Foster. That's where I'll put it. Like a weird like Reuben Foster panned out. Like that's what I almost think of. Like a more athletic Reuben Foster who also was an All Pro, which is a little off the chart. I will, but
Like if Jalen Smith never
yeah, I
got
like
hurt.
that. I don't hate that at all. Jalen Smith could have
Yeah,
been if he never
I'd
tore
say
his ACL
something.
coming out, he could have been legit, legit. He's still
Yeah,
working.
I'll let you go into the Saints
Sounds good.
pick.
So number 8, we have the Saints taking Ruben Bain, and this was a fun comp. I have his ceiling as Cliff Averill, and feels more realistic than a ceiling. This is about where I see him, with the physicality on the D line. Yeah, he has, and I talked about it a little bit earlier with the lacking in bendability, in the lack of lateral movement. That they talked about the pro day, that it almost, oh, he better be in the backfield. He better not be on the end because God, good luck beating a D end, but I mean, good luck beating an offensive tackle. But I really like the Cliff Averill comp. He was a producer on the Seahawks for years. I used to watch his tape when I was younger, when I played D line, and his hand skills were fantastic, man. What a bull rush! And I almost thought about his pair on the D line, Michael Bennett here, because he reminds me of both of those guys. Michael Bennett was a serious producer.
Yeah.
Their just aggressiveness, their bull rush, which the bull rush is underrated. Like, yeah, I think maybe Ruben Bain relies too much on the bull rush, but it is an underrated skill. And if you truly have it, like if you really have it, like Cliff Averill did, you can get under guys and just dishevel them. Just get back in the backfield. But I digress. My reality for Ruben Bain is Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver was a super prospect coming out. I loved him out of Houston. But this is my comp to about where he is in the Buffalo D line. Maybe he's a little lost in the Buffalo D line, which I really thought Ed Oliver could be a Pro Bowl type of guy. He hasn't showed that yet, but he's still young. But they remind me, and they have very similar measurables. He reminds me of Ed Oliver. And yeah, it's his power rushing, but it's also his ability to, jack up a guard and stop a run, which Ed Oliver did exceptionally well at Houston and still does well in Buffalo. But my floor on him, and this is a very low floor, I'm not sure if I truly see this, but the way and I'll say this very quickly, but the way I see this floor working out is if, like we said, he ends up relying too much on the power rushing, and O linemen realize that, and they just demolish him because of that. They know that he only has one move, and like I've said, he is like Sully from Monsters University, that he has one move, and he's gonna get beat, and you're gonna realize that, and you're gonna, if a guy's got a power rush, you're gonna get back in your stance, and you're just gonna let him ride because he's not gonna hit you with a cool little T.J. Watt spin or a J.J. Watt little swim. He's just gonna try to power rush you, so you can beat him on that. But that is Vernon Goldston. For those who remember from the Jets, who drafted 2008, I believe, bust. I believe 3 sacks within 2 seasons, if I remember correctly. And Vernon Goldston, have very similar measurables. I mean, yes, Ruben Bain has very typical measurables for the end, but Vernon Goldston, besides the slightly longer arms, they have very similar measurables. And Vernon Goldston's thing coming out was the power, it was the size, and it was production. He had a successful college career, but it just never panned out in the NFL. So that is my floor for Ruben Bain.
Okay. I'll hop into the Chiefs pick of Mansour
Ooh,
Delane.
this should be fun.
Um, yeah, so I think he is an unbelievable corner. I loved him back in his Old Dominion days. I've mentioned it before, but
Yeah.
yeah, so I think his ceiling is somewhere in like that lockdown corner, number one guy. He could be like a JC Horn. That's kind of where I have him at. JC Horn this year, that's where I have his ceiling at. But just based on his build frame, I could see him more like Richard Sherman. He's a better cover than Richard Sherman,
Yeah.
but just based on his build and stuff, I do see the Richard Sherman comp.
Sure, I do say.
Yeah, as floor, I have Greg Newsome, so still a solid cornerback too. Um, Still a producer, still going to make plays on the ball, but his floor is going to be someone who he's going to have to be paired with a number one guy.
Mhm.
That's his floor, and then his realistic. I have Quinion Mitchell.
I like that.
That's where I have his realistic right now. I did watch a decent amount of Quinion Mitchell tape. I loved him coming out of Toledo, but yeah, just a lot of their game reminds me of each other and how they are able to play man and even zone cover, like just an all around solid cornerback one. That's kind of where I have him, where he's still like in that top 10 conversation, but he's more on the borderline of that than if he were to be like a JC Horn, who I have in my top five.
Fair. I like that. Um,
I was going with more current for this one just because I felt I felt like corners, especially now, they have a different build than what they used
Yeah,
to, and just like the length and size of him is
it's just
just
different. You got to go with what you feel. You got to feel the vibes because those are what matter.
yeah. I'll let you go into the
Yep.
Bengals pick.
So I have the number 10 pick, and with that pick, we have Spencer Fano out of Utah. And this is an interesting prospect because I've seen things all over the board with the Utah linemen. I've even seen Caleb Lamu over him in some mocks, which is interesting, and I wouldn't do that. But to hop into my comps, my ceiling, and it's more of a realistic ceiling, I guess I'd say, but it is Jake Matthews. It is a guy that is a staple on your O line for years. He seems like a guy that's going to be very just solid coming out. A guy that is plug and play. He was excellent at Utah in pass coverage. There's a reason why they were so high this season, and their offense was so productive. Uh, they didn't make the college football playoff, but they were legit, and he gets me excited. I don't know if I see the ceiling of Moaga, and that's why I have Moaga above him as well. But Matthews seems like the realistic two ceiling comp. But my realistic with him, which is interesting, because it's it has a little bit to do with the ceiling almost, but it is my floor. Patriots Nate Soldier. He reminds me a lot of Patriots Nate Soldier. And before, we're not going to even talk about Giants Nate Soldier. He is not allowed in this house. His name does not come up in this house. But Patriots Nate Soldier was legit. He was a very solid staple, a Pro Bowl type of guy on the O line with nothing remarkable about his game. I would not say he had anything, whether it was strength, whether it was speed, whether it was IQ. He never had anything remarkable, but he was extremely solid. And that goes underrated on the O line these days, especially in the year of 2026, where it feels like midway through the year, teams are, flipping through their depth chart just trying to find somebody. So I think a guy, if he ends up like Jake Matthews or, a guy like Nate Soldier, I think that would matter. But my floor with him is Elijah Vera Tucker. Um, this talks about the rawness of him. Yeah, I talk about him as plug and play, but he does have things that he could work on. He can be sloppy in some reps. Watching his film, it's not even an effort thing. It feels like he does give effort, but he just tends to make silly mistakes, whether it's falling for a double move or maybe dropping too far back and letting a guy fly in front of you. It does seem like he tends to make those mistakes relatively often, and that's something that Vera Tucker, whether in college or on the Jets, that's what he seems to do. And yeah, we talked about in the last episode how we like that signing for the Patriots, but he does have ironing out to do, especially for a guy that's 26 years old. So that is my floor for Spencer Fana.
So this is my favorite guy to comp right now. I was looking forward to him, man. Makai Lemon picked by
Yes.
the Dolphins. Sorry,
Tyson's fun too. I'll see you
I
in a
got
little
ahead
bit.
of myself a little bit. Yeah, Tyson
Tyson's
one's gonna
fun.
be
Tyson's
real
really
fun.
fun.
Yeah, so the Dolphins are taking Makai Lemon at pick 11. I'm pretty confident in that, unless like wide receivers start flying off the board. But I have his comp or his ceiling at Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's a debatable top six receiver in the NFL. Just that
Not even a debatable
possession.
top six. Solid top six. Debatable top
Yeah,
five. We had this debate
just
last episode.
we did. We did. Yeah, no, I have him in my top six, Amon-Ra. But yeah, just that possession guy who's able to still make plays after the catch, tough runner. Dom's used his turn slimy in the nicest way
Slimy.
possible. It sounds like
Slimy.
that. Yeah, he's got a lot of grit. He's gonna make plays and legit guy. And then at first floor, similar gritty type of guy, Hunter
I
Renfro.
like that. That's a fun one. I do see it
Yeah,
though, actually. I see it.
yeah. No, he's a good route runner. He's good after the catch, and he's gonna do anything he needs to do to make plays for your team. And then his realistic comp is going to be Tyler Lockett throughout his
I like
prime
that.
years. More of that possession type of guy where he's not. Tyler Lockett was not a huge fighter after the catch, but he does have that upside. This is more like a lower realistic floor. But Tyler Lockett did produce at a high level for a number of
Oh
years. He was
yeah.
a legit dude. Yeah, so I really like Makai Lemon, and honestly, if you get a guy like Tyler Lockett on from Malik Willis, I don't think they're going to complain about
I
that.
like that. I think, yeah, I agree with you that I don't really see it busting.
That
I love the Renfro comp because I think Renfro is a
yeah,
technician at wideout. I mean,
yeah.
wow, some of the best intangibles. Yeah, he doesn't. Maybe he never had the talent of a top tier guy, but people forget about Hunter Renfro. He could have been,
Yeah, went for 1,000.
if he was actually believed in, he could have been a 10-year, like a serious guy.
I'm just waiting for him to go to the Pats.
Real. He's on to something. He's on to something. Drake May would light up his life. It would be very fun. I mean, imagine him out of the slot in New England. Wow. Wow. And just little zigs across the middle. Oh my god. Give me fucking turn.
Dude, just a little escape route. Just a little flash outside and then back
Right,
inside.
watching
Oh,
Patriots
that'd be
games with
so
hearts
cool.
on. It'd be fucking crazy. It would be wild. You'd have to censor it. It would be disgusting. But besides,
Yeah, that's me with my rose-colored glasses on and seeing Hunter Renfrow in a Pats
when I go
uniform.
to sleep tonight, I'm going to close my eyes thinking about it, just hoping that it shows up. Speaking of, this is a
Right.
fun comp I really liked. So we have the number 12 pick to the Cowboys, and we had Jermon McCoy going here out of Tennessee. This is a really fun comp for me because I do think he has the ceiling to be the best player in this draft, which is once we go down this list, it's going to be harder and harder to find a guy like that, but he really does. And his ceiling is Joe Hayden. Excellent, just draping guys.
I, I really love that. I really love that. I was thinking Slay too, somewhere
Slay,
in that
I thought
realm.
about Slay, I did, but Hayden, just the ability to be a blanket, just to mirror a guy and go, we're going one on one. I'm gonna stay with you. You better figure this out because it's unlocked, and that's what Jerron McCoy can do. And yeah, despite the injury, he has insane acceleration, insane lateral movement. He can get back, he can drop back 3 steps and cross right over and cover a wide receiver on a slant and jump it. And not a lot of guys can do that, just have the speed to do that, have the awareness to do that. Plus, his tackling skills are pretty decent. I mean, he tackles pretty well for a corner. He's not a guy that's going to trip guys. He does like to tackle with his body, and Joe Hayden was just like that. Joe Hayden did not tackle like a PUSSY, and I appreciate that. My middle ground for, I'll go my floor right now. My floor is Deontay Banks. Um, there's a chance yep, there's a chance that his athleticism was used as more of a tool to get back to even because he has insane athleticism. He is such a, not even raw prospect, but he has so many, he tested very well, even if he is still hurt. He tests very well in my head. Watch his film, he tests well, he looks good. But sometimes on film, and this is what Deontay Banks did a little bit at Maryland, but it seems like he gets beat sometimes and then uses his athleticism to make up for a play, which scares me just a little bit that he makes a wrong read. And then, yes, in college, he has the raw athleticism to make a play on the ball and still make a positive outcome out of it. But in the NFL, you're not going to have that all the time. So I do think his ability to maybe get burned reminds me of Deontay Banks coming out, and that is my floor. But my realistic for him is DRC, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie. Just the absolute shift ability. I mean, DRC used to play the game so pretty, man, that whether he was backpedaling, going left, going right, going forward, going up, it don't matter. He seems like it's all just Tuesday. And I love that about Jamal McCoy, that he is so fluid when he gets to, like I said, up, down, left, or right. He is so fluid. He can get all over the field. He can I love, just like I said, I love the tackling. DRC used to be a missile out of the tackling. His coverage skills are excellent. He can mirror a guy. DRC is my realistic comp, and I really do hope he ends up being DRC. And yeah, I'm a little biased being a Giants fan, but DRC had time on the Cardinals. He was not just, I believe he played for the Raiders as well. And where else did DRC play? Where did he play? Was it
Chargers
Chargers?
or no? No, I'm thinking of
Not a,
thinking of Chris
yeah,
Harris.
yeah,
I
never.
think.
Well, anyway, I love DRC, and pull up the Jamon McCoy tape. If you know,
Computer, pull up Jerome
computer
McCoy
do it.
tape.
But he reminds me a lot of DRC, and that's one of the more generous realistics I'll give, especially because it's not a ceiling realistic. That feels very much on. As long as he's healthy and he can get out there and play, I see that. Maybe a absolute basement is Jeff Okuda if he really busts, but I don't see it
Yeah.
happening. That is a guy you can, if you watch the film, he reminds you a little bit of Okuda. There's streaks of him, but Okuda was impressive coming out of Ohio State. I mean, yeah, in the NFL he hasn't been so hot, but he was a good prospect. There's a reason why he was drafted so high.
Yeah. I love that we flipped these
Yes.
picks. I'm really happy that I'm really happy I got
Aren't
my
they
pick. I
fun?
got
I
your
had a
pick
great
because
time mocking it. Oh
you
my God.
yeah, you picked a lot of skill guys and
Is it realistic?
I have
No,
more
but now
fun.
we get Kenyon Sadiq, baby. Let's go.
Kenyon Sadiq to the Los Angeles Rams, and you are gonna
I'm
love
so
what I
excited.
have
I'm
here.
genuinely fuming.
For his ceiling, I have prime Vernon Davis.
Let me going. Let me
Vernon
going.
Davis yeah. Vernon Davis was a difference maker on the Skins, like I said. He did play for the Skins,
Me
so
good.
it's okay. Um, and then for the Niners too, just an absolute 10-year vet that was always producing at a high level. I couldn't imagine he fell below five in any fantasy draft that he was ever a
Dreadlocks
part of.
Vernon Davis was a different player. He was so different. Oh my God.
Maryland Vernon Davis
Wow.
was a difference maker. And then for his floor, I have Jonnu Smith, still a productive tight end. Still productive in the right
Yeah.
offense, but just not really separating
Yep.
himself from the rest of the pack. Kind of like a borderline top
Yeah,
16
more of a
tight
safety
end.
valve, but yeah.
And then my realistic comp is Jared Cook.
Ooh, I like that. That's fun.
I I think that's like more to like a lower level. I do think I'm a little higher on him than Jared Cook, but Jared Cook was one of those guys that does have that big pop potential any given week. He was a guy, if you needed 20 points, you weren't putting in Mercedes Lewis, you weren't putting in Martellus Bennett, you weren't putting in any of those guys. You're putting in Jared Cook to get you those
It's
20
true.
points.
I like that. I think
Yeah.
my comps, I was expecting, I'm not sure if I was expecting, but my floor was Elijah Arroyo. My middle was Evan Ingram, and my ceiling was Kellen Winslow.
I had Evan Ingram originally, but I didn't want to give you
Yeah, that's fair.
PTSD.
Appreciate that.
And I think he is a better blocking tight end than Evan Ingram ever was. I think Evan Ingram was more like that Kelsey role where you didn't really line him up being like on the
Yeah.
line as much, especially Kelsey towards the end of his career. Um, yeah, so that's kind of where I have him. Jared Cook was a better blocker
I
than
like the
Evan
Cook comp.
Ingram.
I could see Fant almost. I see hints of no.
I can see Noah Fant, but the same thing. Noah Fant's not a great blocker. I mean, maybe like if Evan Ingram panned
Hmm.
out. I'm not Evan Ingram. Eric
Yeah.
Ebron
Oh,
panned
I like
out.
that. That's very fun. I really like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll
I
let
like all those guys, man. Vernon Davis just gets my heart pumping. I mean,
I know. I saw your face. I was like,
give me a smile. Speaking of heart pumping,
yeah, because you were speaking on Kellen Winslow, and I'm like, ah, should I do the predictable or just like stay with what you're saying? No, I'm like, I'm gonna
it's
catch
like
him off guard with the Vernon Davis.
that's fun, and I like. I mean, even Jared Cook gets me going. He was productive,
Yeah,
but
no, we
we love
love
Jared
Jared
Cook
Cook.
over here. But then we have Jordan Tyson at number 14. I believe it's the Baltimore Ravens. So to start off my ceiling, I have Alshon Jeffrey. Um, Similar, yeah, I know, I know, right? I can heart pumping, but very similar.
I was expecting. I was
No,
expecting
Ted's not
10.
even on this list. I decided to leave Ted off the list. I see it, but there's
It's
guys I just
beautiful.
resonate more. Just guys I see a little bit more. But so Alshon Jeffrey, same ball tracking skills, very similar size. Maybe Alshon's a pinch bigger, but just the physicality. Alshon Jeffrey was a dog before he fizzled out. I'm talking about prime Chicago Bears Alshon Jeffrey. I'm not talking about anyone else. I'm not talking about Eagles Jeffrey. I'm talking about Bears Alshon Jeffrey.
Even Eagles
Neil
Jeffrey is
Jeffrey was
still a
good as
dude.
well, but I mean to say
Like
Bears
Bears Jeffrey
Jeffrey, like
before he went to
real Bears
yeah, I know
Jeffrey.
exactly what you're talking
Um,
about.
I saw hints of Vincent Jackson as well. I didn't want to make the comp to be
Yeah,
respectful, but I do see Vincent Jackson a little bit. I also see hints of Keenan Allen,
I
funnily
agree.
enough. But those guys are not my calls. But uh,
Some
I
areas.
just they're not my comps for a reason. But my middle would be Juju Smith-Schuster, and I
Yeah,
just very
I
similar
agree.
guys. I could see it being, but to get to my floor, and a guy that I almost kept flipping back and forth from to say that, all right, my floor is Chiefs Juju Smith-Schuster, and my middle ground is Browns Terrell Pryor. Browns Terrell Pryor. You can see it. Put it on the tape. You can see it. He was a dog for a year. And I'm talking about that 1 year. I'm not talking about anything else. Not Raiders Terrell Pryor, because you've seen the 93-yard run, is it? It's insane. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. But I love Terrell Pryor. It made me so happy when I was younger to watch him ball out for the Cleveland Browns. And he was excellent, especially if he was a little more refined. But wow, getting his feet down, having the physicality to get over guys, get through guys, even really good off the ball, just get off. I mean, his get off was really fast for a guy that was a less quarterback. I mean, a previous quarterback. And I see that a lot with Jordan Tyson. They were just reminding me of each other. And my absolute basement is Zay Jones. Zay Jones out of East Carolina. That's my basement pick. Very similar size, like I said. If the speed doesn't pan out, if the route running doesn't pan out, and if it's just a physicality guy that can go outside, I see the Zay Jones basement. And that I digress.
Okay. So
This
I'm
way.
up now. I, I got the Bucks pick, which I did not expect him to be here. Carnell Tate. And I like Carnell Tate. I thought he was going to go a bit earlier. I could see him going five to the Giants. I know that would
Please
break a
don't.
couple people's
Well, we
hearts,
got go. We
especially
got
one
Darnell
of
Mooney, we got Calvin
pot.
Austin, we got Malik Neighbors, we got Isaiah Likely, we got Tyron Tracy, we got Cam Scatterbo, we got Darius Slayton, we got Isaiah Hodgins, we got Ryan Miller. Please don't draft Carnell Tate. Please. I,
I'm not showing him, so let's just say. Anyways, Carnell Tate for his ceiling. I have George Pickens,
ooh,
especially this season.
fun.
Just not a separator, but a big contested catch guy. Like he could come down with a lot of different balls thrown his way. And then for his floor, I have a Michael Gallup, just kind of like that's vertical threat. Gallup does have a bit more speed on him, but just kind of like that. I might even go with like Terrence
I
Williams,
like that.
even like another
I
Cowboys.
thought about
Yeah, just like
Stevie
more.
Johnson from the Bills a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking Stevie. Yeah, Stevie Johnson's fair here. I like George Pickens here just because
Oh,
it's
I
more
like that a
recent.
lot. Yeah.
Um, Yeah, and then Michael Gallup is his floor. I just kind of was sticking in the Cowboys path just in my head. Um, but yeah, no, I was feeling it. I do think he's realistically a guy that could just be a two on an offense, which is fine, especially for what the Bucks have
Yeah.
in Ibuka. Um, and just being that deep threat guy that's coming down with a lot of different passes thrown his way when he needs to, not necessarily every single, not getting 8 targets a game, but getting 4 targets and catching three of them. And then for his realistic, I have T Higgins,
Okay, I like that.
which is a bit high, but more T Higgins this year, like more on a down year. Yeah, I do see a lot of comparisons with him and T. Higgins again, a guy that's just not a huge separator, but comes down with anything thrown his way. Big physicality, good outside receiver. Just kind of that's where I have him listed. But I think he's going to pair well if he does go to the Bucks with Ibuka, especially that Ohio State relationship. We can see the Bucks slipping into the. They've been slipping over the past few years, but I can see them sneaking their way into the playoffs, especially in a weak NFC South. It's kind of like the Wild West
I
out there.
I agree. I think that, like we've talked about a little bit, it's going to be a very interesting division. With the rise of the Saints and will the Panthers stay there? But I really do like the Buccaneers this year because yeah, there's a couple key departures, but Baker's solid and he might. I mean, is he the best quarterback in that division? I guess so. Maybe even by
It depends. It depends how Baker plays this year. He
yeah.
got hurt and threw him off for like the rest of the season, but he was playing at an MVP
I
level to start the
mean, we're
season,
talking
especially like
Tua, Tyler Show, and Bryce Young, and I don't see the Falcons making a run this
it.
year.
I I gotta see what Show does this year, and I gotta see what Bryce Young does this year before I could really say anything. But Baker's the most
No,
proven
no,
out of
for
the
sure.
four
I
by
would be
far.
very excited about him and Carnell Tate and Emeka Ibuka. That would get me going. I
It's gonna be going
really do
just thinking
like
about
that.
it.
I think he'd be an excellent two. I don't see
Sure.
him as a one in the NFL, but there's nothing wrong with that. We've seen productive twos for years. I mean, hell, a guy we talked about, Alshon Jeffrey was a two. Juju Smith-Schuster was a two. Good guys, productive guys.
Wait, who's Alshon Jeffrey a two to? Why can't I
You
think of
got
it
this.
right
Come on,
now?
number 15. Yes, be
B
Marsh.
Marsh? What?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought so.
I was like, yeah,
I thought so. I
come
was
on.
like, yeah. I didn't know if my
No,
timeline
it's
was
fine.
off there.
But should I hop into my number 16? Okay.
Yes.
So at number 16, we have Aliva Vega Ione. Aliva Vega Ione.
Ali
Ali Vega
Vega,
Ione.
I
Sorry, I
yes.
apologize.
Been waiting.
Um, but all right, to get into it, and this is one of my more generous ceilings. I'll be honest here, and you might see it coming just a little bit. Larry Allen. Larry Allen is my ceiling.
Did not see
Maybe
Larry
you
Allen.
did.
I did not see that, but I do love it. I think very highly
Yes,
of this
I
guy.
I know how much you highly think of him. He is my number one guard as well, my best interior lineman, and he's if I had to come up with a list for my best lineman in the draft, I just might have him at number one. I would have to think about it, but I might have him at number one, depending on him and Waga. I see similar ceilings to them, but Larry Allen was a beast back in his day. I mean, the best lineman in the NFL, an absolute Bowser build, I'll say. Is so strong, so thick, so great on run, and just a rock solid pass stopper. If all things work out with Ione, that's where I see him. If there is perfect development, perfect everything, keep staying in the gym, nutrition stays on his game, and he can be the best because he does have the potential. If he reaches his ceiling, it is Larry Allen. And that seems like I'm saying a lot, but that's how high we are on him. And he's one of the better guards I've seen in the last couple of years. But he does have what the thing that differentiates me is that yeah, I don't really find his floor and his reality to be that high. But if he does just click, if it does happen, he could be one of the best linemen in the NFL. To talk about my floor, I have Matt Bergeron, very much a lower rotational guard in the NFL, times out at about the PFF 20s, a little bit later. And a guy that hovers around the league. I also thought about Bobby Hart here, a guy that I even shouted out last podcast.
I have definitely a higher floor on him. I think of him more
No, I'm talking
as
floor. Really? You wouldn't Matt Bergeron, a guy that's like a relatively rotational guard?
yeah, yeah, but not even rotational. I have him still like as a solid guard pretty much wherever. Like I think he's going to start for at least 10
Really?
seasons as long as he
I
doesn't
like
get
that a
injured.
lot. Well,
Yeah.
then you might find that my middle is disrespectful, but I liked it. I really do like this guy. I find that, yeah, in you're a Patriots guy, so you might like him as well. But Mike Onwenu, and
I don't like Mike
yeah,
Conley.
I think you might. I thought you maybe you'd either really
But yeah,
you
no, I
see
see where you
it.
come from.
Yeah, just a stable. If he doesn't reach that ceiling, will he still be a stable? Roundabout 15 to 10 PFF guard, a guy that's not going to let up any sacks or very few, is going to be really solid in the run game. And yeah, maybe they make the mistake every so often, but a guy that is still a guy that you can run out there for 10 years. So that's my reality for him. I think he'll be a rotational guard, worst case scenario, or average. But like I said, if he's able to unlock that ceiling, which I'm not sure if he can, but in the right offense with the right system, he really could. I'm not saying he's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day, but he might resemble Larry Allen in 7 years. I think that would be awesome. I mean, genuinely, if he was, wow, him fully grown, putting up grown man bench press, bring it back. Bring it back. Please, bring back the Pro Bowl bench press because it would make me such a happy boy. It would make me such the happiest boy. Bring it back. Bring it back.
Yeah, so I have his floor and realistic a lot higher. I have his him more not that he plays like this, but more his actual. realistic. I have him at like a
Okay.
Joe
I
Tooney
like that.
level. That's where I have him. Maybe like a Garrett Bradbury
That'll be
level, where I know they don't play the same
I
position,
still.
but I like kind
You
of
know
in
who I
that
kept
realm.
thinking about
So
him when
I'll
watching his when watching his film, and I'm not gonna say because they're different positions, but if DeBrickshaw Ferguson played guard, he reminded me of DeBrickshaw Ferguson.
yeah,
Just a
me too.
beast, just a guy that you're not gonna get around. That he gets low in his stance, and good luck getting through him because it's not happening. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'll hop into
Please
mine.
do.
You get Thiem. You get Thiem in. I'm pissed
I know.
about that.
It's a fun one too. You like it.
Yeah. So I have Caden Proctor to the Lions here. So I think his absolute ceiling is Trent
Ooh, I
Brown.
like that.
I yeah, I think Trent Brown's was a legit tackle at one point in his career, and if he develops correctly and everything pans out the way it's supposed to pan out, then I think Caden Proctor does have the size and the build to produce at a Trent Brown level. For his floor, I have a very low floor for him because
Yeah.
I think he's pretty raw. Eric
Two
Flowers.
Eric Flowers comps. Let's go. I do
Yeah.
see it though. Yes.
And then for like a middle ground, I have Orlando Brown
I like
Jr.
him.
Just pretty set
Yeah.
and forget him tackle. Like he's a guy you want out there, but he's not really a difference maker. He might let up a sack a game, but he's still going to be a staple in your not a sack a game. He might let up his sack every fourth game or something like that, but he could be that guy that you just set and forget, and he's going to be in the league for
I
10
like
years.
that. I my comp to him, and this is more ceiling, but was Jason Peters. I see Jason Peters,
I can see that.
but I love those comps. It's fantastic.
Even like a Tyron
Yeah,
Smith, I could
I
see
do
it.
see that.
I have Jason Peters and Tyron Smith pretty
He
closely.
does have that top end potential. We talked about that a little bit in the mock, but he's raw, but since he has that Blastoise build that very few guards have, a lot of guards are skinny, tall dudes that just got fat to play tackle. We love a guy that looks like he'd be a bouncer at a club. That we love that. We love Bowser builds. We love Blastoise builds. We love them. We love big turtles. We love big turtles. We adore them, and that's what he is. That's what Caden Proctor is.
Go Terps. All right, I'll let you hop into
I appreciate that. So those are
the
official Sunday Ball terms. We're coining the turtle build. We're coining the Blastoise build. But so all right. So we're getting to Dylan Thienen. This was an interesting comp because I could go with the obvious here, and I decided I'm not going to do that. It's so easy to go with a Harrison Smith ceiling build. We're not doing that because you know why? He's faster than Harrison Smith. He has better movement than Harrison Smith. He has better lateral quickness than Harrison Smith. Harrison Smith is a lot. I mean, he is a beast of a tackler, but Pittman's faster than him, and that's why I went with John Lynch, a guy that is in the Hall of Fame, is the best GM in football, genuinely. But he was so good in his prime. So just a hawk over the middle, a guy that could such a solid tackler, so fast, a guy that's smooth, where he makes tackles and it almost feels like he doesn't break down. He just runs through guys. He does break down. If you slow it down, he chops his feet a little bit, but it's so smooth. I really think John Lynch is his ceiling. My middle ground was DJ Swearinger, a guy that's a relatively average to high average safety, good in coverage, but not substantial. If he doesn't get the hold of NFL defenses so much and becomes an Eagle, because I really do think he could become a Harrison Smith, John Lynch Eagle. That's how I see Thienen. That I would call him an Eagle safety, where he is going to patrol the whole top and shit's going to go down because he is in charge. He is going to be the captain. He's going to be the desperado. But if he doesn't get to that and he has to rely on his ability to maybe come up to the line of scrimmage and blitz, or play coverage on a tight end, or maybe even hop back and play deep. I do think his realistic, maybe even a little bit lower than I think is realistic, maybe closer to floor than ceiling, would be DJ Swearinger, and his absolute floor is Cole Bishop on the Buffalo Bills, a guy that I watched a lot of this
Yep.
season. That he's still productive. He's still a relatively decent safety, but he lacks maybe the top end speed to catch up to a guy in coverage. Maybe the size to not exactly drape a tight end who's coming back on a 10-yard curl where he have to make a foot tackle. Have my projection higher on Dylan than that, and I don't think he's going to be such a borderline rotational guy that Cole Bishop is, but that would be my absolute floor. And you know what? Cole Bishop's still a productive NFL player.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have the Panthers pick here with Akeem Mesidor. I really love this pick. He just fits the team well, just adding Derek Brown and stuff like that. And I have a very high ceiling on him. And this is if
Who we
everything
got
pans
here?
out. I have Khalil Mack.
Ooh, that's fun, man. I love
Play
that.
style, just the play style. I love him at edge, and he is a guy that can stop the run, move inside, do multiple things. So if everything really pans out the way that we
I love
want
that.
it to, I do see like that stockier build where he's going to be like more like Khalil Mack. If his pass rush develops like if his pass rush skills develop like Khalil Mack, I think that's more of a realistic ceiling, but that's a pretty high ceiling. And then for his floor, I have a rotational piece of Solomon Thomas, who was picked very high, but just a similar build to that. That's where he's playing inside, outside, listed D tackle, wherever you want to put him, but he's able to move across the board and still be decent across the board. And then I have a Pats guy here, Diedrich Wise.
Ooh.
That's where I have his realistic comp. He was a productive guy for the Pats for a few years and still is pretty decent. But yeah, that's where I have his realistic here. I don't think I do think very highly of him, but I think this is kind of not as generous as I could have made it. It's just their play style was very similar, where he is able to bounce around the D line, where he's able to play line up in a three tech, line up in a Wise was in a seven tech a good portion of his career too. Just keeping between the tackles and between the tight ends. Sorry, in a seven tech, but yeah, that's kind of where I have him. I do think very highly of him, and I do think it was a um, little not so generous of me to compare him to Diedrich Wise, but just their play style really, really
I think it's fair
connected
with
with me.
how high your ceiling was. I appreciate the difference between the floor and the ceiling, honestly.
Yeah,
Khalil Mack's generous,
yeah,
but you can get there. I mean, genuinely, if everything pans out, if that Miami defense was
yeah,
truly him, and this almost requires Bane to bust, I have to admit, but I could see it. I could. I'm not sure if he'll ever be the speed guy, but he can develop the skills that Khalil Mack has. I mean, I'm a big Khalil Mack fan. I thought he was an insane prospect coming out, but I could see it. I could get there. I
yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah.
All right.
No, I
So
know.
let's get to Caden McDonald at number 20.
No,
So this is another
nope.
foam one.
No, yeah, yeah, you're right.
So
Sorry,
we have Caden
I
McDonald,
was.
referencing the first mock, but we have Caden McDonald here out of Alabama. And this was an interesting comp here.
Ohio
Ohio
State.
State. I'm, it's late. I'm having a,
Yeah, you're probably thinking of
that's
Caden
exactly what
Proctor
I'm
still.
thinking of. I don't know why I went there. Maybe because they're both Blastoise builds, but we're not going to go there. I mean, I love how
Maybe because
big
they're
Caden
both Caden.
McDonald is. He's humongous.
Maybe because they're both
They're
Caden.
both also Caden. They're both also humongous human beings. They're actually giants. But we're not going to go there because we are going to go to Jordan Davis with our comp for our ceiling. Just body wise, he just reminds me of Jordan Davis, a guy that can just absolutely clog up your interior of your D line. He can jack up two offensive linemen and still make the play. He is a disruptor, and he might have better pass rushing than Jordan Davis, and that's actually pretty impressive coming out. Jordan Davis is actually a very substantiall pass rusher even today, but that is my ceiling on him, and I don't think that's a very unrealistic ceiling. I see him getting there. I thought about Warren Sapp a little bit, but that felt almost. He doesn't have the movement skills that Warren Sapp did. Despite being a humongous human being, Warren Sapp was so slimy. He could get around. I mean, genuinely, he could cross two gaps over and get through and still make a sack. So we're not going to go there. But my absolute floor on him, which is almost a little comical. It's Desmond Big Des Watson, the guy who plays for the Buccaneers. I could just see it. If he just eats too much and can't stay in shape forever because he's a big dude already, if he's a guy that just cannot stay on the field and is always dealing with weight issues because of how big he is, and I'm not here to objectify him, but I guess I could see that. I could see his absolute floor, and it's maybe a basement. I guess that it's more of a basement, but still. But a realistic guy who I'm seeing, it's almost my floor because of I don't think he's going to be any worse than this. And this is an All Pro guy we're talking about, All Pro 2016. Damon Snacks Harrison, Snacks. He reminds me of Snacks. He does his run stop ability, his clog ability, his physicality, his fearlessness, not just to make a run stop, but to keep going despite how humongous you are and try to make a sack. And that means a lot. And he did that a lot in college. And that's what Snacks did a lot in the NFL, whether it was with the Lions or with the Giants. And that is his pretty realistic floor, I guess. He's my reality, but my realistic floor for him. And I'm very high on Caden McDonald. I'd have no problem taking him in the late teens. He's a little higher than a guy like I don't know. I guess like Caleb Banks or even I mean Zion Young plays a different position, but I have a lot higher of a grade than him. I might even talk about him over Akeem Mesidor. I think I'd still go Akeem Mesidor, but it's very close, and he's very high for me. And there's a reason why I have his realisticness, even if it is more of a floor, as Snacks. Snacks was an All Pro. I mean, he was fantastic.
Okay, I'll hop into the Steelers pick, which I do think is going to get
Yeah,
traded away.
definitely.
For not the guy that I have, but I think the Cardinals are going to trade into here and get Ty Simpson here at pick 20, especially if
Wow.
the Jets don't take him. I could see Ty
I
Simpson
don't know
going
if
there.
they wanted, I'm not going to get started, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, that was just a thought. But I've I've Keldrick Falk. So I loved him coming out of Auburn. I really do like a lot of the guys Auburn produces because they are legit dudes. They're just in Auburn, which is guaranteed to go 6-6 every year. Um, yeah. So for my ceiling, I have Cam Jordan. Yeah,
he
yeah.
might come up a
I
little bit. I
really
can't
like.
lie, but
Yeah, no,
because
Cam Jordan produced for years. Just always productive guy. Can line up kind of a little bit more inside, but I wouldn't classify him as a D tackle yet. And then for his floor, I do think pretty highly of this guy. So his floor, I have Sam Hubbard, who's
yeah,
productive run stopper, decent edge. Nothing to write home about, but pretty solid guy. And then for my realistic comp, I have Prime Zadarius Smith.
it's fun.
Yeah, so I do think if things don't pan out to the Cam Jordan role, I do think he's going to be a Zadarius Smith guy where he's productive for 5 years, real dude, and then just kind of like falls off a cliff, gets bounced around the league, seems a rotational piece. But yeah, no, I really like this kid. Think he's going to be a legit guy. I'm hoping for the Cam Jordan ceiling, but can't all be Cam Jordan.
It's fair. And Zaire Smith is not a bad realistic. It's not a bad floor.
Yeah,
If he hits that and he's a solid player for 10 years, I think that'll be awesome. I love it though.
yeah, yeah. No, I think he's going to be a solid player for 10 years. I don't really see him busting too much. I mean, I could see him like going into like a Clelin Farrell type of
Yeah.
path where he just doesn't fit and then gets bounced around the league and should be out of the league pretty soon.
Yeah.
So
I mean, honestly,
that would be a basement for
yeah.
him. But
I don't hate it. And, this goes for most of these players in this draft. It lacks the ceiling of some other drafts, like a 2014 or a 2023. But it does have a pretty solid floor that I feel like a lot of these guys are going to pan out as starters. And maybe they're not all pros, but I really am excited for how much depth this draft might add, even into the second and third and fourth rounds. But with that said, at number 22, we have Zion Young out of Missouri. This was a very interesting pick when we made it, maybe a little higher drafted than everybody else, but I'm very high on Zion Young. And for that reason, I have Robert Quinn as his ceiling. I love the Robert Quinn. If you watch Zion Young's tape, he just screams Robert Quinn. It's that slight bendability. It's that ability to be just a monster. That he does have the high end of Robert Quinn. He has the physicality. He has the actual physicals. They're very similar in build, and I think they could have very similar production. I mean, he was productive at Missouri, but Robert Quinn was a real difference maker for years, even into his older career when he was he with the Rams in late career, but it was really impressive.
I think
Dol- was
early
it
with the
Dolphins late career?
he was Rams. He
Yeah.
bounced around
Yeah,
Chicago.
right.
He was still
His last big season was in Chicago, that I do remember. But just with that said, I find that it reminds me of him a lot on tape, and if he ends up being Robert Quinn, especially a guy that we're talking about, late first, early second, it could be an absolute smash. My realistic with him is Matthias Kaiwanka, Kaiwanuka. Anyone who is an ex-Giant or an ex-Giant fan remembers Matthias. He had a big role in those Super Bowls in the early 2010s. And a guy that maybe doesn't pop off the chart for you, but has the physicals that make him a substantial difference maker, whether it's just that quick first move or a simple jack up, push through here, and swim through. It's really impressive. And that's what Matthias used to do. He had just insane hand skills. And Zion Young, even as raw as he is, I love his hands. They're very impressive for a guy that is of his draft caliber. You'd think his hands would be a guy that's more of a top 15 guy, and yeah, he's a little rawer with his actual body, but I love his hand skills. And my floor for him is Deion Jordan. This is someone that reminds me a lot of him coming out, where if absolutely nothing hits, and all he has is his physical attributes, his testability, and nothing hits, nothing translates, and he fizzles out in a few years, I could see the Deion Jordan. I hope it's not Deion Jordan, but in reality, his tape has hints of Deion Jordan, just if nothing else pans out. No.
yeah, I like that. Okay, so I'm up to Freeling for the Eagles. For a ceiling, I have Colton Miller. Just like really good offensive lineman for a couple seasons, but yeah, just a guy that's going to be a top offensive tackle in the league. Not that Colton Miller is really that, but
Rock solid.
more along the lines where yeah, he's rock solid. He's going to be a solid guy. I don't think super highly of him, but I don't think he really has a
Yeah.
ceiling
Can't say I'm
of
ridiculous.
what some of the other offensive tackles do have in
That's
this
a great argument.
draft. But yeah, so then my floor for him is going to be sorry, I'm switching tabs and
Which you
stuff.
must.
Yeah, no, it keeps like making noises and stuff at me. And I'm like, jeez. Um, I have Andre Dillard, who I could see him out of the league in 5 years, 3 years. I do think he's pretty like very pro ready, but I don't think he just really has a ceiling. And across the board, I think a realistic for him is going to be Cam Robinson,
Like that.
just like a decent, roughly about 10-year starter, just a guy you can kind of plug and play. Yeah, I just don't think crazy highly of him, but I don't think he's going to be a crazy. I think he could be out of the league in a few years. But I do think he's going to be productive, decent starter for a few years. It This is more based on longevity. Like I see Colton Miller playing like possibly 15 years. I see Cam Robinson at about 10, and then I see Andre Dillard at 5 years.
That's the very substantial argument when it comes to O linemen. That it matters just how long they're going to be
Yeah.
solid for. You don't have to be an all-pro guy to be a very much a value piece for a franchise. And I'll talk about that a little bit when I get to Caleb Lamu. But before then, I'm going to talk about Omar Cooper out of Indiana. So Cooper's an interesting prospect because some people have him on a first round grade, some people have him on a third round grade. But I have him about in the middle there, where I see a team maybe reaching on him in the back of the first. But in all reality, I think he should be more of a second round player. And my comps do reflect that. So my ceiling on him is T.Y. Hilton. I think that fits his tape a lot. His shiftability, his really is, and I use the ability a lot, but I like just finishing words with ability. But his toe tap ability, his ability to get down,
How many
it
times?
matters. It has to do with possession. I mean, being able to gain possession matters, and his some of his catches are ridiculous staying in bounds. He can be a safety
Penn
valve for a
State.
team that I could definitely see. His route running is pretty impressive for a guy coming out of college. Definitely not the route running of a guy like Makai Lemon, but he still has decent routes. I like his footwork. But for my basement or my floor is Trey Tucker, a guy that is more of a tool guy, but can still be used in an offense in the right ability in the I guess the right offense where he could fit in and play some reps outside, some reps coming behind for, whether it's fake end arounds, or to have him coming out and maybe give him a rocket pass, or a guy that you can shift him a little bit inside, but more of a tool guy is his floor for me. And my realistic was Christian Watson, just a very solid wide receiver 3-esque player on a team where, yeah, maybe he's not catching 1,200 yards, but he's gonna be a safety valve. And I've seen even a lot about him drafted early second to the Raiders, and I really like that. I think pairing him up with Mendoza would be very fun and would help not only him but Mendoza. I think it's very important to have a wide receiver you've thrown to before. That mattered for Joe Burrow, and I think it would matter as well for, it's a little bit more of a lesser extent because they haven't been drafted so high, but hell, they won the Natty too. So you might as well give him either that or Surratt. Surratt late, but yes,
I
I love
love
Surratt as
Surratt.
well. He's actually been very up my boards recently. I think he's going to be an end of second guy, but yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay. So I have the Bears pick here with
Mhm.
Caleb Banks, and for my ceiling, got a
Yeah,
little.
I can write it.
Ah, I was about to hit the sexy Dexy, but that's my ceiling for him.
Taxi, taxi. I love that. I love that
Yes.
comp. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, that's my ceiling for him. Like if everything pans out the way it should, he is a stuffer at heart, but he could possibly be able to get after the quarterback like how Dexy does, and still putting up possibly close to double digit sack numbers if everything pans out. For my floor, I have Malik Collins, just more like a very good run stuffer, not a guy that is really gonna make a huge name for himself in the NFL, but he could, he can. He has a possibility of doing it, and definitely a lower floor than most. But I really think this is one of the better comps I've had. DJ
Hmm?
Reader. I really like the DJ Reader fit, just a solid run stuffer for years on end. Um, and yeah, I think of him more as a run stuffer, but if he is able to develop his pass rush, I think he's going to be fitting more of that sexy Dexy role.
I really do see that. He's a high enough prospect for me where if everything pans out, I could see that, a perennial Pro Bowl type of guy, especially in the late first. It's not as expected as you'd think. I really like Banks. I
Yeah.
think he could be great, but all right. So to get to number pick 28, we have Caleb Lamu. And my ceiling for this guy, not the highest ceiling in the world, but it's a respectable ceiling, especially for an end of first tackle. And that's Taylor Decker. If he pans out perfectly, I could see the Taylor Decker where it is just a really solid guy. We said it a million times this episode, but a guy you can trust to get out there and I don't know, let up a few sacks a season, maybe have a lucky season of two or so. And that matters when there's guys out there putting up 12 sacks a season, like letting up 12, letting up 13, whatever. But my floor for him was Cam Robinson as well, which is actually a pretty respectable floor to have. As we've said, he's hung around the NFL for about 10
Yeah.
years. But my middle ground, a guy that I really just think he reminds me of on tape, is Jawan Taylor. A very mid tackle for the last, I mean, genuinely 10 years. A guy that stayed in the NFL because of how shallow the depth is at the position. Yet he seems to get beat a lot, and this is why he reminded me really of Jawan Taylor. It's, yes, he's very solid. in most dropbacks, but he has the same ability, even as his twin Infano does, to be a little sloppy, to step back and not not in, not engage. I'll say that, not engage, and kind of he's got. Sorry, it's April here. It's beautiful out. There's bugs everywhere. I'm in my room and there's bugs everywhere. But as I digress, he just seems to have the fault of sloppiness to use the dinosaur arms. And when he brings out the dinosaur arms, it's so easy for a guy to hit a move right across his face. And then when he overcommits on that move, it's even easier for a guy to go around him. His run blocking was actually very good on tape. I really liked his run blocking. But run blocking at tackle is a lot easier if you play in the Big 12 than if you play in the NFL. So I'm not going to give him too much credit, but that's where I'm at.
Okay, we're moving into the Niners pick, which me and you both
Yes,
love.
yes, yes.
Got the rock, we got an absolute rocket
Love
from
that. Love that.
Toledo.
I was watching the Stay Hot podcast, and they didn't say the rocket out of Toledo. It felt like it should have been said.
Feels wrong when they don't,
He said because he copied our
but
line, which that's an original. He said, talk about some action.
that is an
Action,
original.
Mac is real football.
So
They said it. They didn't credit us. Eh,
yeah.
bad. They're lucky I'm a loyal listener. Okay, they're lucky.
So my comp here, I have for ceiling an All Pro type of player,
Ooh,
Derwin
I like that.
James. The lankiness that I see out of him, the ability to just be a hybrid safety, more like be able to play in the box like a Derwin. It's kind of where I see his ceiling if everything pans out the way it should. Derwin James is where I have him. For his floor, I have a Keanu Neal. Decent for a few years, nothing really to write home about. Bounced around the league a bit. And then for his actual comparable comp, I have Justin
Ooh, I like
Reed.
that.
I think very highly of Justin Reed. I really do like Justin Reed a lot. But again, like his ceiling could possibly be Derwin James. Like that's what people are drafting him is for his raw potential coming out of Toledo. They're not drafting
Yeah,
him to be a Justin Reed because you could find a guy like Justin Reed in the
this is a pretty
later
raw
rounds.
potential pick.
But
I agree.
yeah, I think a realistic comp is going to be a Justin Reed
He
type of guy.
reminds me of what's his name out of South Carolina last year. Plays for the Seahawks. Yeah,
Evan Ward.
he does a little bit. Not his tape, but just him in general.
Yeah,
It's
just
too
his build and
sloppy.
stuff.
After
But that
rewatching his tape, it's a little sloppy. And maybe I wouldn't take him early 20s, but he does have the potential. It's there. And he does. It's almost like his sloppiness makes him more attractive. That sometimes he finds his way to get in a difficult position and he can still recover and make a tackle. And maybe that's the Mac ability of it, but still.
yeah. Yeah, again, it's the Mac. We love the Mac, but it's hard to, see guys out of there.
Especially because I usually prefer
All
offensive
right.
guys out of the Mac. This is interesting.
Yeah. All
All
right.
right, so pick 30, we have Peter Woods. And this is a very fun comp as well for me. So for my absolute ceiling, and I mean absolute, is Jeffrey Simmons. Jeffrey Simmons is an all-pro type of guy. They have very similar builds. They have the same type of position. And I think if he really falls into a perfect role on a team and they build him up and they develop him right, and not just the IQ, but the physicals of making him a little thicker, a little bit stronger, a little bit lower to the ground. I watch his tape, he gets a little higher too much, which is not like a huge problem when you're playing ACC football, but it's going to matter, especially if you're such a thick guy. But I like the Jeffrey Simmons comp. For my floor, I have Darius Alexander. He was out of Toledo last year. He's a D lineman for the Giants. A very similar build to him for sure. Their tape was very similar. It almost seems like the same player that he just transferred. But he was not great with the Giants last year. He was a hole on our D line, but he still has potential, and that's almost how I see Peter Woods, where even if he doesn't pan out immediately, I think in the right development he could keep pushing forward and become a consistent guy by year 3 or 4. But my realistic for him, which I was very excited about, is BJ Raji. I can just see if he buy it. Yes, this would require him buying into a little bit more of the run stopping. I agree. This is going to require him to put on a couple more pounds. I agree. But realistically, that's the way I see him going. You're not developing Peter Woods into a pass rushing specialist. You just can't do that. You're developing into a Jeffrey Simmons. Or if you want to go fully into the run, which I think they should with him, is a BJ Raji.
I can see like for a ceiling, I had Chris
Yeah,
Jones.
that's fair. That I see Jeffrey Simmons and Chris Jones very similar.
Yeah,
That's kind of where I see him, but I think that almost gives too much credit to his adjustability, to his. Um, I feel like he's better off in the middle. That's where he flourished at Clemson. I don't see him as like an elite pass rusher or anything. Especially when there's other guys on the board like Cassius Howell available. If you want a pass rusher, just go with him. Yeah,
yeah.
take it away.
Okay. Moving to the Chiefs pick here, with surprise, surprise, we went Chris Bell here. Not my pick. I do like Chris Bell a lot. I do think he's a second day kind of guy, but for his ceiling, I have Debo Samuel for that 6 week period in fantasy when he drops 20 a week.
He's on to something. Let him cook.
That's yeah, that's my
Yeah.
absolute ceiling for him. Like, when Debo's on, he's on. He just has a very similar build, great after the catch. Like you throw him on a drag, he's gonna
Yeah.
make a play. A lot of respect here, and I do like it for the Chiefs, especially if they do go this route where they go defense offense. I think it would be a
hmm
good way for them to go. For his floor, I have Kendrick Bourne. Um, not not a guy that you really want to put out there, but like a solid wide receiver 4, wide receiver 3 role. And then weirdly enough, I have Xavier Legette
I like
here as his
that's fun.
realistic comp. I did love Xavier Legette coming out, and I still think pretty highly of him. Um, Not that Xavier Legette has really panned out the way we everyone intended to, but just similar build, similar
Still got
frame, and
time.
just still got time. I do think he might pan out in a different offense, especially if it's not as crowded of a room where Legette is basically the wide receiver
Yeah.
3 at this point. But yeah, I think he'd slot into like a wide receiver 2 if he does get the opportunity to, especially with the Chiefs. I think he could, opposite of Rasheed Rice, I think he could be more like that gadget type of guy who's going to make
Yeah.
plays after the catch, especially if they don't go. Because I can see him going lemon at.
Yeah, I can see him going 11 at 9 as well. Yeah. I think he could
Yeah.
be
All
what
right.
they wanted Watson to be when they drafted Watson. I really think they had high standards for him, and he never really panned out. But I
Yeah.
you didn't see any Flash Gordon. I could see it when I watch his tape. I can't lie.
I saw more of Debo just based on his build
I
and
like the
stuff.
Debo comp. I
Just
think
more,
he's a little bigger than Debo, but I do see that. I think if he was a Debo guy,
more like stockier. But Flash Gordon was like
Flash.
Flash Gordon. Like he was. There was a reason he had that
That's
name.
fair. He had top end speed, but all right, guys. So this is the last comp of the last pick in our mock, and that is
No,
no.
we
This is
have
number 32. Oh no. This is never mind. So I get a negative for that. I just lost negative 15 aura, so that sucks. But with that said, I have Avion Terrell out of Clemson here. And this is another one of my fun comps because I have his ceiling as Asante Samuel Sr. Just like I said, his ability to drape with guys, but he actually loves contact. I was not expecting it when I pulled up his tape that he really is a little bit of a ball hawk. He's very aggressive, and he just reminds me of Asante Samuel, his ability to not just mirror, but play shadow on a guy and pop a route, or realize a guy's coming over the middle, take that into account, and make a play where he's not even seeing him and just blow him off the ball. He has streaks of safety in him, and I would not hate if Avion Terrell was switched to safety later on in his career. He has more safety than the two rest of the guys, Delane and McCoy. Which yeah,
yeah.
he's not in that category of corner. He's firmly in the cornerback 3 for me. But I really do like him, and I think Asante Samuel's a good. a good high. My floor for him is D. Milner. For those who remember D. Milner, he was a huge bust. I mean, really bad for the Jets, and that's where I see his flaws really panning out. Besides, let's say he gets into the injury stuff, which happened with D. Milner, but his slowness shows. He's not the fastest guy in the field a lot of the time. He's definitely an
Yep.
athlete, but I think if he starts getting washed by guys, he starts reacting way too fast. That was D. Milner's problem when he was in the NFL. He just would bite on routes and just get cooked. So I could see that. And my really my realistic for him is Sheldon Brown, who was a rock solid starter in the NFL for multiple years with the Eagles and some other teams, but a little more of a 2000s guy. But he really was solid, and his tape reminds me of him a lot. Just maybe doesn't pop off the field, but can be a lockdown cornerback two, borderline cornerback one for a productive team. I love him at the back of the first. I don't see him, despite how far back he is in hours, I don't see him falling to the second because once you get out of this, it falls off a cliff, like genuinely. And yeah, there's other guys. I don't like Hans and a couple other
Yeah,
guys, but like,
yeah. Pond, CC, I like a lot. Out of South
yeah,
Carolina. Colton Hood, if you
yeah,
like him,
I don't. No
have
disrespect to
me.
Colton Hood. I
Not
don't
bad.
love Colton Hood. He's a second round guy. A lot of those guys are second round guys.
Yeah, I think there's a
Yeah.
separation between the two
Mhm.
top guys, then Avion, and then I think there's another gap
Yeah.
between
I just think he's
like
a first
CC
round
and
guy in this draft. Like he's not the highest guy on my big board, but he'd probably slot it in around I don't know. I'm gonna say late 20s on my big board. Probably right in
yeah.
front of McNeil Warren at like 26, maybe. I'll give him that. Yeah. All right.
All right. So I'll hop into the Pats pick, which I love that you picked this guy, TJ Parker out of Clemson, another Clemson guy. And I have his ceiling as Daniil
Ooh, that's
Hunter.
fun.
Great
That's
pass
fun.
rusher. I think he's a true edge. He's a guy you want on third down, getting after the quarterback. Not a huge run stuffer, but yeah, I kind of have his edge ability, bendability, pass rush moves. Like I think he does have a very high ceiling, and I think if he develops, especially well, I think he could be one of the top defensive and like edge guys in the league. Daniil Hunter's probably a top 10 guy right now, but
I
yeah, I
can
could
see
see him
it.
there.
Yeah.
As his floor, I have AJ Espinanza.
We're at an hour 49 right now. Please keep going.
Yeah, this is if everything doesn't pan out, but yeah, and then realistically, I have him as Greg Roro. No, that was wrong. Greg, yeah, Buffalo
Yeah,
Bills edge.
Greg, I always pronounce it Rusino.
Rosu?
It could be Rosino. It could be Rusino. I always said
Rosino.
Rusino, but now saying
Yeah,
it out loud, Rosino sounds better.
I was thinking of Ru
Whoa, whoa,
Roro.
whoa, 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 whoa.
Uh,
That was.
yeah, here's another Clemson guy, but yeah, no, I think this is realistic where he's going to be a good edge, but not nothing to write home about. Yeah, just a guy that can make plays when you need him to. If he does develop, I could see the Daniel Hunter comp. I do possibly think his ceiling could be higher than that just because of his build frame, the way he plays. Like when he does play, his tape is phenomenal, but sometimes he is a bit sloppy and takes plays off.
All
Yep.
right.
And then hand the keys to you on the
Okay,
last one.
so officially, now that we are past number 30 and 31, we are on pick 32, our finale, and this is the Seattle Seahawks. And we have them taking Cassius Howell out of A&M. This is a player that I find to be very raw, but does have the peak ability that a lot of these edges have in this draft. And I do think if he pans out, he could be one of those guys. And my ceiling comp to him is Montez Sweat. It's not that far off. It's not asking too much of him. If he stays on his trajectory and goes to the right program and, gets on, whether it's a dietitian to get him a little bit thicker or a good coach to work on his footwork and maybe some of his hand movements and, add a couple pass rushing skills to that already. He's got a fantastic build. He's very raw, but he does have the talent. So I could see Montez Sweat as, yeah, it's the ceiling, but it is realistic. My floor for him is Mike Green, a guy that came out last year out of Marshall. And same thing, all my comps for him are very almost raw guys that really depends on their development trajectory. It's not based upon them, but more the situations around them where I'm a hater on Mike Green because he's super, super lazy. I mean, watch him play. He doesn't have any effort. It's like he's not a first round pick. It's like he's not fighting for his job, like he's not fighting for his family. And besides the fact that, I'm not going to say anything negative about the guy. I've heard he's also a really bad human being, like just not a good person at all. So, like, fuck Mike Green, I guess. But besides that, no, genuinely, very bad stories. My ex had some things to say about him because I guess she went to school with him or something. But maybe she knew him or somebody, whatever. But negative things. And besides, there's also negative things he has that are in the public media, not that are from news source, my ex girlfriend. But whatever.
Don't leak
No
the
leak
source. Don't
source.
leak the
No
source.
leak source. Do you think she's really going to be listening at an hour 52? I hope so. If you are listening, please
If
listen.
she misses,
Because if you're listening, please type in the
if she
comments because there's no way.
if she misses you enough,
All right, all right. And to finish this off, yeah, no, we're just fucking laughing here. This is just a nice conversation. But my realistic is Kayvon Thibodeau. Same thing I said. Bro is crying over them. Bro is fucking losing it. All right. I'm really
stop
fast in
me.
Kayvon, and
Stop
then we
me.
have 7 minutes to talk about whatever we want. Okay. So Kayvon Thibodeau, same thing with very similar to a guy like Montez Sweat, where he does have the speed, but Kayvon is a little bit less developed than Montez Sweat, where it's almost like he's pass rushing for show. And what I mean by that is if you watch the A&M tape this year, it does feel a little bit like he's pass rushing for show. Like it's a lot of cleanup sacks. It's not as much of in-game first quarter, second quarter disruptions, but more almost garbage time, which is something that Kayvon did a lot at Oregon, and he does with the Giants as well. That his stats are there, but in reality, he didn't make a big difference the whole game. And all he did was eat up on a shitty offensive tackle like once. And it pisses me off a little bit, but I digress. But I do see that as more realistic thing for Cassius Howell, where let's say the potential pops, but not to the certain extent of Montez Sweat of being a second team All Pro guy, but only pops to the him being an average offense. I mean, an average D lineman, a good rotational D end, where he can still make an impact, but not be the best player on the line. That's kind of where I see him, and I think it would be a good pick at the end of the first. But that's all we got.
That's all we got.
Yep.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So that's all we have. We have a few more minutes. So
We're probably gonna stick
do
around
you want to
till
do anything?
till 1:59. So if you guys want to hang out for the next five, you hang around. We're probably just gonna chill.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll just talk a little bit. I mean, if anything, maybe some potential trades
Yeah,
we could see teams creeping
for
into
sure.
the top 10. I'd start it off and guys that they would
Mhm.
go for. If Jeremiah Love falls past four, I think a team's going to trade up with the Browns
Oh, I like
or
the
the
Browns pick.
Giants.
I find that. I wish the Giants, but I find the Browns would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think some team is going to trade up and get their guy. At pick six with Jeremiah Love, he is a difference maker. He's probably the most. He has the most potential out of pretty much everyone in this draft this year. I'm trying to think of what teams I could see sliding in there. I could see the
Yeah,
Seahawks possibly moving in there, especially they have a decent
I
amount of
wouldn't hate that
picks
either if they got
between
Love.
two
I
days.
would. I mean, I really would love that. I've been seeing a lot recently of the Patriots trading back, whether it's the second or the first, and bringing in AJ Brown. I'm not sure how I feel on
Yeah,
that particularly. I do think he would produce with May. I mean, it would be an excellent piece to get him. But do you really want to bring in a guy with that much, let's just call it that much personality, to a team that just went to the Super Bowl and now is going to be dealing with the aspect of a Super Bowl hangover? I don't know.
maybe.
Maybe,
Um,
genuinely. But
yeah. So I have a minute 58 on mine on my recording time.
what do you mean a minute 58?
An hour
I have an
58.
hour
Sorry.
56. What are you, how?
Uh,
All right.
I don't know.
So I guess with that
No,
said,
we'll
I
go with
think that's where we're going to call it for today. But thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed the comps. We certainly enjoyed it. This was one of the more fun podcasts we had. Even getting these Players Together was a lot of fun. I mean, I thought about a Cortland Finnegan comp from
Yeah.
multiple guys. Not even that he felt like anybody, just because I wanted to say the word Cortland Finnegan, and now I have. So now I'm happy. Jake, do you have any final words for
Yep.
everyone before we call it a?
No, I appreciate anyone who's around this long. I saw Eric commented
Yeah,
on the last one, so hopefully he does again. And yeah, no, I very happy with how that went. Did well on time.
for sure.
Didn't feel anything was we shortened anything that we needed to
Mhm.
shorten. Yeah, no, I thought it was a good one, and I hope everyone
All
enjoyed
right, you
it.
guys, be good,
All right.
stay good, and I know for me, and I could even talk for Jake here. We love you. Good night, guys. I think that's it. Yep.